everybody. We are here again with another video. Jennifer and myself are going to have another, what I call, cosmic conversation. So hopefully you're enjoying these. They're so much fun for us. And what we do, for those of you who might be new and haven't seen my videos before, we get together to catch up, to just chat about things going on. And invariably, we cover all kinds of topics, things we would never expected to cover. And it's sparked often by just a thought, maybe an experience, and then we go down a rabbit hole. Today we go down a rabbit hole. And again, I guess I would say they're fun conversations that we have, and we invariably always end up learning something because we both channel information. We each do it a little differently. So for those of you who are new, you'll see how that works for myself and as well as Jennifer. She has a lot of experiences that she shares. I channel a lot of information, so it's an interesting pairing, and we play off of each other, I think, quite nicely. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll cover a bit about the video now. So essentially what we're talking about today are vibrational relationships in kind of all forms, but we start out by her talking about being a parent of an autistic child. And so her son is autistic, and she actually starts out the conversation in that vein. But then we quickly get led to talking about vibrational relationships. And what we do is we then get taken into talking about the Atlanteans. We are talking about specifically a divine system that they had for their relationships, but for birth in particular, and then for what I'll just say, rebirth. And we'll talk more about what that actually means. So we hit on some information that resonates, I guess I'll just say, with both of us, but that we didn't anticipate coming forward, and that has not been brought forward to me previously. So as I always say in these videos, hopefully you take a couple things away that help you understand more about the puzzle of this human journey, the puzzle of your own journey. And if things don't resonate, then you know what you do? You toss those aside, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? You take the things that resonate for you forward in your own journey. So before I launch you into our conversation, I'm going to see what comes through for us as we're heading into the solstice. I keep getting a little bit kind of a poking and prodding that they want to say a few things, so we'll see what happens. But first of all, I want to thank you all for joining me today. I'm Carolyn. I'm a channel, I'm a distance energy healer, and I'm a spiritual awakening mentor. And I offer these channels often from the Light Keepers, who are a group of angelic beings who I channel for your awakening and ascension and life journey. However, I've also been doing a lot of conversation lately with Jennifer, and they're just really fun cosmic, I call them cosmic conversations, galactic conversations, where we cover all ranges of topics, and we get pretty deep. We've really been kind of delving into the quantum world lately as well. So thank you again for joining me. If you are new to my channel and you would like more free content, look at this description box below, and you're going to see a link that will take you to a video on how to create flow in your body for health and wellness, which is super important during these awakening and ascension times, and just for the life journey in general. But then what it does is it leads you to my email list, and what you do is you get signed up for that. It's just one email a week on a Friday where I send you this beautiful poetic message of support for your journey forward in the next week. So that's what I use my email list for. So anyway, I hope you'll join me there for more free content. Keep in mind, I also post on Facebook under Purple Rain Healing. Purple Rain, R-A-I-N, Healing. And you'll see a lot of poems there. They go back, I want to say, 3 or 4 years of support from the Light Keepers as well. So that's where you can get more free content from me. So what I want to do now is I want to just go straight into seeing if there's any message for us before we move into the conversation with Jennifer and myself. So let's just see what they're offering to us. I just heard the words prepared to land. I have no idea what that means. Oh, okay. They're talking about in a new dimension of time and space reality, moving into your timeline. Okay, we've talked about this. So this is we've talked about some of this, but what they're saying is this is really, it's like preparation time into this idea that we've talked about in past videos recently of timelines collapsing and us choosing, whether we know it or not, by things we're doing daily, and that vibration that we feel and the feelings we have, and going from our heart space of where we want to, how we want to live our lives, the life we were meant to live, not the one we were born to, if that makes sense. Okay, coming out of that human trajectory that we've created for all of us, and that we have typically followed in one way or another. This is about living the life we are meant to live through heartfelt passion. That just came through, heartfelt passion. So what they're saying is, okay, so moving into a new space and time dimension, new timeline. But what they're showing right now, what's happening right now, is in between, during eclipse season, in between the lunar and solar eclipse, and we've got a full moon, I think it's next week, sorry, I don't know the date, but we had the really powerful lunar full moon in May. That really started things. They just said kick-started things and took us to a new level. A lot of us really felt that, and here's the thing, have continued to feel it. And we went through Mercury retrograde, which just recently ended. So there's been a shift and change in some of that energy. What I've particularly personally noticed is the weeks from the lunar eclipse and the full moon up into the new moon, there was a lot happening after the new moon. Then things the energy shifted a bit, and we're out of Mercury retrograde. So, they just said, get your engine started. What is it they say when a car race starts? I don't remember, but it's something like that, right? They're saying get your engine started. So what happened after all of that now with Mercury retrograde ending, because sometimes things can stall and just, the idea is a lot of things you don't want to make huge, big decisions on, because we kind of go in reverse in Mercury retrograde, and not to go into all of that, but that's how I've always seen it. We kind of go into a little bit of a reverse mode, or kind of a standstill, and now what they're talking about is getting engines started. And here's the thing, they just said revving up. So we had the new moon then, which was super powerful. At least I know for many of us, there was, our intention setting is getting, we're manifesting, I guess you should say, we're manifesting more out of our intention setting. Things are actually happening faster as we actually participate in these events. Because remember, we're getting vibrationally closer to all of this. Like, we're vibing higher. Our frequency is higher. We're matching more of this magic, right, into our lives. So what I'm getting now is, this is all, we're like here. We've done this thing of like getting ready to roll through the solstice. But what I'm getting is this, they're talking about engines revved. It's like the lunar eclipse and full moon took us to this place. They just said the starting gate. And now they're also showing horses, the same idea, getting to the starting gate. But the idea of starting the race in the sense of the metaphor they're using. But okay, and so they're showing that at the solstice, it's the gates open. The gates open. And again, you're using the idea of vibrationally continuing to, they just said take the great leap. Wow. Okay, the rest of this year, I think we're going to markedly feel vibrationally different. Like, okay, they just said line in the sand. Like, we're going to be able to know, we're going to be able to look back in our individual lives, and maybe collectively too, right? Because remember, this all rolls up from individually to the collective. So we may see some big events where we're like, whoa, line in sand. But I'm getting, all we can do is focus on our individual journey, right? You kind of look off to the side and see what's going on collectively, but we focus on our individual journey. That's where the rubber meets the road. They just said, gosh, they're using a lot of race car analogy or race analogy, but you're not racing against anyone else, just so you know. It's not a literal thing. They're just using that as a metaphor. Getting ready to launch off from the solstice, drawing a line in the sand from the solstice forward. Whoa, there's a lot of energy around this. And that's what I'm seeing. And I've already said previously where they've shown me how what we call the summer months in the northern hemisphere, winter months in the southern, they just said are the key to taking us forward and these new days to come. You might remember, this just came back to me, that you won't even know yourself by the end of the year. In those, and yet, you know what? It's kind of funny because it happens subtly too, and then we have big shifts. Remember, this is not a linear progression. Yes, we have phases we go through, but they showed me today actually in a client session. It's actually circular, or it's like a spiral, kind of like they talk about past lives. they're not really past lives. It's all happening at once, but they're showing this as a spiral. So that's why it feels sometimes like we're really moving forward fast, and then we can feel like at a standstill, and then we get these great leaps. But I'm very much getting, and then it feels like flowing into, they just said, like taking that launching off, that flowing into that, or excuse me, that energy coming off the solstice, which they're saying is a line in the sand for your journey forward. Wow. It feels like you're, when I say you, I mean us, each individually, following the thread of the thing for what we will, the life we're meant to live, the life we want to live. And again, remember what I've said before, this isn't the whole thing shows up all of a sudden. This is a process of getting like a knowing of something different coming your way, however that shows up. And it may not even be conscious yet, but it's all, a lot of us are starting to realize, oh, I'm feeling drawn over here in whatever way that means for you. A lot of shift and change happening. It's all part of this process of unfolding the new pathway forward for you individually. And I keep leaving the old behind, whatever that means for you. So drawing a line in the sand, the solstice, that we're going to integrate those energies through what I'll call Northern Hemisphere summer, Southern Hemisphere winter, and I'm not seeing fall yet. This is kind of what they do. They give me kind of like a quarter of a year view, but they do say you're not going to know yourself. Okay, they're really talking like, yeah, next year you're not going to know yourself. Like end of this year, moving into next year. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. I hope this is helpful to you to kind of continue to do. I've been starting to do little brief energy updates in between the big ones and the months. I hope you like this. If you comment and let me know. I mean, if there are things you want me to do and channel, I will take your advice. I will try to get some of that done. I kind of flow with what shows up, but I would love your ideas. I'm here available to you, and the messages and what I bring through on my own, I hope you are very much enjoying, because it's clearly what you're supposed to hear. But if you have topics you would like, for example, Jennifer and myself to cover, or me just to cover, and if you like these energy updates in between, let me know. I'm probably going to keep doing them. So that said, I'm going to send you over to our conversation. I hope you take a couple things away for your journey, and then I'm going to wrap up with you real briefly in the end.
I can say, yes, like what you're talking about, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing the same thing, but I'm doing it in a little bit different way, but it's the same thing, right? It's so funny to have these experiences. I go, yes, that's exactly what's happening.
Okay,
right?
It's interesting you say that, because I said that in the end of my video, which is interesting. I said, remember, your journey is your journey, but the process is the same. It's just we go through different phases but we have our own experience within that.
Yes, it is so amazing. Kind of like, because I'll get like the backstory on something or some information, and I will say, okay, I want this to be this way, this way, this way, and I'll feel all these shifts happening, and you change it, and you're like, whoa, okay, that was amazing. We can do that, right? But it was like some of the background stuff that prompted me to do it. It wasn't me just kind of saying in life in general, or kind of just my 3D experience, I want things to be different. I was doing it on knowing more information about it, kind of outside of here, galactically, cosmically, past, future, that kind of stuff. And I made the decision based on a lot of information, but I felt it changed, just like you said.
Yes.
And it was like, oh, wow, that just kind of happened, right?
Yeah, it totally. And it's what they told me was, we're in this time because we're going through the awakening journey as well. We've shifted, but then we get these energies that come in, these opportunities where things just start flowing more to us. They start happening faster in that sense.
Yes. It's wild though. I mean, my goodness. And it can happen very quickly, but I do find there are some energies where it happens very quickly. It happens exactly the way we intend it to. It happens as though it's an intelligence. Like for instance, okay, talk about intelligence. Okay, let me just tell you this real quick one. So I'm sitting in the bathtub, and I'm doing I'm like reorganizing. I'm like, okay, I feel like my being's kind of spread out all over the place. I really want to bring it back into the original design and all of that, make everything, like bring it all back in and realign me, so I'm able to like go out again in an organized way. I feel kind of disorganized and displaced and not all together with myself, my whole being together, I said, I know that's not true, but I don't feel it, and I want to feel it. So I'm thinking, okay, I work with different teams and kind of like different eras of my life, for different reasons. And I'm kind of thinking, okay, what team would be best for this? What team? And I'm like, hold on. And I just came out of my mouth. I said, I'm realigning. According to infinite intelligence, that which created me. Ooh. And holy moly, ooh. You talk about just everything.
Because you know what?
Totally changing. Yes.
That aligns, and what we're talking about here, they just said to me, that aligns with the ask and you shall receive.
Yes.
Okay. Ask, we hear that, right? I mean, from what religion, but the Bible? I don't know. Ask and you shall receive. I don't know. But needless to say, the point is we have that whole free will situation going on as well. But when we engage and we ask, oh my gosh, in these energies, it's incredible.
Yes, it's very responsive. Very responsive.
That's exactly it. Very responsive.
Yes, it's awesome. I love it. It feels like a very attentive partner almost. You know what I mean? It's like you're right there and they're right there with you, you know. And even though it's funny, when I like backed out of the idea of this team or that team, or kind of backed out of the doing and more of the being part, you know, it just came in complete, perfect. You know, it was amazing. Like, okay, that's right. You know, I kind of felt like that's kind of the energies right now. It's really exciting in a lot of ways because I feel like huge. They're sweeping energies where big, massive shifts of huge stuff. It just comes through like a paintbrush. It's done. Yes. Right. It's amazing.
I know. And I wonder, this is just kind of entering my mind. So those of us who are very aware, like we are, about engaging and having the conversation and bringing our teams in, or, you know, infinite intelligence, however we want to phrase that, but that we're engaging and we're aware. And what I wonder about are people that aren't, or they're on the cusp of, or they're kind of ignoring their journey. They're not engaging. I just wonder, how does that work? Do you know what I mean? I mean, we all have help and support, right?
Yes.
But what I've always been wondering about this with people who aren't consciously on the journey. We talk a lot about engaging your team with, they don't know to do that, right? And so I wonder how and this is an honest question because I'm not channeling anything yet. I mean, but do they have to wake up fully start waking up to be able to understand that, oh, that's right. This is a process I need to be involved in and I need to engage, and to get the most out of it, I need to participate with my team and blah, blah, blah. And then are they just inexplicably kind of, oh, okay, you know what they're showing me? Do you know, oh my God, they just showed me this, the kids game, pin the tail on the donkey.
Yes.
Think about that a minute. So they're blindfolded.
They're trying to. Blindfolded. Yes.
They're still,
and it's like that. Like I was thinking while you're talking, I'm like getting visuals too. Like when a lot of times people are engaged with their team, but they perceive that as their own inner dialogue, their own inner voice talking to them. Where we've started to engage in the way where we understand, okay, there's beings actually here helping me doing stuff. And the voice that I thought of my whole life as being my inner dialogue, I now realize it might be a future version of me anyway. It is probably me, but it's actually interactive, and I can have more in-depth conversation, two-way conversations with this. It's not just the voice that pops into my head every once in a while that I think is mine, right?
Yes. So
most everybody is having a conversation with their team. They just don't realize it's not their own inner dialogue. That's
good you brought that up, because when I think back to my vast majority of my life, I would talk to myself. You know, I would talk in my head. But so let's take that a little further, because there's the idea of, well, is that your team or is that your big, huge ego?
Well, it could be both. Sure.
Right. You know what I mean? So like that discernment, like if people don't know, that's the pin the tail on the donkey. They're flying blind. They're flying blind. Right. And they've got the same donkey picture that we do. and they're going with a with blinders on, and they're going to hit the animal somewhere probably.
Yes.
We're going to go right for the tail, where the tail belongs, because we can see.
Yes. Yes. I agree. I think that's very accurate. I think that your awareness kind of, or your consciousness, your awareness and your consciousness are tied together. So the more you go, the more open you are, the more aware of your other, what is happening around you. The true nature of our reality starts to expand to include some of these things that you and I are used to, like you and I maybe deal with every day. Right. It's one of those expansion things. When you become aware, your reality expands to open up to a lot of this other stuff. But I don't necessarily think that they're at their peak performance or their most ideal state, not knowing, although there's probably stuff running all the time anyway. I don't think they're completely blind to it. They just don't realize that's what's affecting them. Like feelings, emotions, steering, they can, there's stuff going on, whether you are awake or not. It's happening.
Which is why they're showing, this is interesting because they address that, which is why they're showing being turned toward the donkey on the wall. Yes. So you got the donkey, but what part of the donkey are you going to hit if you're blindfolded? You're at least going to hit that donkey. Do you know what I mean? Most likely.
Right. Yes. So push you in the right direction. Hopefully.
It's not like they're sending you backwards and you're going down the steps to across the street, kind of thing.
Yes. And there's some other things. I can look back on my life and I know now that this is what occurred. If this were to happen to me in this day, in this moment, I would be able to pinpoint and say, I know who you are. But there are people that came in human form to me and had interactions with me throughout my life that I know now was my angel or my team coming to me in a body and saying something to me. And I basically never saw that person again, or only had a very short interaction with them, right? But I can tell you now in retrospect, that was who that was. Yeah. And so that's happening to people too.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
They wouldn't be able to do that now. Now I'd be like, oh my God, you're so-and-so. I wouldn't be able to pick up on that in a second.
And what's weird with those situations is if you, and I've had this happen, I should give my example, but if you were to go back to them later, because usually they're just strangers or people that show up and they say something, and you went back to them and said that you said they wouldn't remember. They would not know that they said those things typically.
Yes.
But the people come your way and it's like,
so it could come through. Yeah. It could come through somebody and they won't remember it, or it could show up as a person that you never see again. Right.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's so kind of cool actually. And I've had experiences here very recently where we planned it because I needed something. Right. So I actually knew they were coming into somebody, and I knew that was going to happen beforehand. So it's really amazing everything that is possible within this dream reality that we're in. There's all kinds of stuff going on and I think as your awareness grows and you start to become more comfortable with the nature of this, more and more becomes possible.
Yes. And yes, go ahead, keep going.
No, I'm just saying it just opens you up to more experiences, right? Totally. So it does take a little bit of the mystery out of some of it, but it opens you up to a whole other plane of mystery on a whole new level, right? So
it does. And I think this is what I always keep going back to when we talk about like all the magic of this and how things are set up and you see it start to happen. The more, and it's so hard for humans. I mean, and particularly those of us who are used to controlling our destiny and, planning and plotting. When we surrender and we let go and we let flow happen, if we focused on nothing, but honestly, self-care and flow, getting it and self-care is flow. I mean, really, because that you need meditation, your body, your chakras, your energy body, your mind, your soul. If we focused on nothing but surrendering and creating flow in our body and caring for ourselves, this is all just going to show up for us. I mean, yes, we have to act. We have to act at times and make decisions and choices, but it's going to be in front of us. It's going to be so much more clear for us.
Well, the acting, I think, too, is just the what you demand for your surroundings, your family. This is something that I was talking to a friend with this morning. The highest form of service that I think that I can give to my family is not necessarily getting into their particular struggles or trying to psychologically figure out why they're doing something per se. It is me keeping myself in my energy.
Yes.
And having that, just emanating me as being who I am, being content, finding pleasure in small things, being non-judgmental, being in a state of peace or harmony, zen around my family, and not being the one who has to figure out, is it some kind of a trauma that's making them behave this way? All of the things that maybe I would have done in the past, if I can hold my state, that's the highest form of service that I can provide, right?
You know what? You bring up
your work.
Yes.
Is keeping yourself there and putting up your boundaries to the drama coming in your face, right?
Yeah. So they're talking about how, they're just really validating what you're saying. And they're also showing a visual of what happens when, and this happens in so many families where a parent is giving all their energy away, and they're showing it draining out and going into we'll just use children as the example of trying to solve the problem. There's no boundaries. There's the enmeshment. And then that parent, what I'm showing is they just said the words empty vessel, right?
Yeah.
So there's no boundaries. There's all the energy going to them. Whereas what you do, if you, in your example, you're building your light and your energy body that actually assists them more. And yes, you're still going to be the human parent too, but the point is it actually assists them more energetically in what they're going through. It gives them they're talking about a foundation, like a strong foundation versus they're talking kind of that whole dysfunctional thing that can happen is meshing into your, and I'm using parent-child in this example.
Yes.
Anybody, meshing into that. And then basically what you've done is you've taken your energies, they're showing this, and you're enmeshing the energies, and then they can't become their own energy self, create their own boundaries. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. And I can say that is uniquely poignant to my situation in the sense that I also have a special needs child. And you want to talk about enmeshment with all of the stuff that goes into there's so much more in, even with any child, the typical child, you have that feeling of, I need to take care of them. I'm responsible for them. There's a lot of things playing out in them, maybe that are from your childhood that you don't want to see happen to them, or that you wish fulfillment, different things, all kinds of psychological stuff going on with the child, right? Now I add in the component of the special needs, then there's a lot of extra stuff piled on top of that you want to see, caring for, researching, trying to make sure that they're getting the best of everything, or make sure they're, that you didn't do anything wrong, and you've got all this guilt stuff going on. There's so much. It's very difficult. It's a huge issue with, especially moms, special needs kids. There's enmeshment is so severe, so severe.
It makes so much sense.
And there's no fault. God bless them. No. I say it's just this desire to want to love them and make their life easy, right? It's all coming from the most pure, beautiful energy, but it causes that very thing that you were saying. I know myself very much so, and almost every other mom that I know that has a child like this. So God, this is a huge lesson for our community, for the special moms community right here.
Right.
You've got to do. I learned this a little bit. I still struggle with it every day. So don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I learned this a while ago when as soon as my son was diagnosed when he was 18 months old, I barely slept. I researched the day. I could tell you anything about anything from mitochondria to homeopath, anything you want to know, I can tell you. Cell function, I know Krebs cycle, I've got it all down. All right. So I just researched all of this stuff. And at some point I hit a wall where I was so exhausted that I had to stop. It's like it made me stop because my own health was like, you have to stop.
That's a perfect example of what we just talked about, that giving that energy away to that thing, right. To that, yes, to that subject matter. Yes.
And so I stopped and I said, okay, you have to start you need to rally You need to get yourself, your energy, your body. I started taking care of and doing massage, started spending quiet time.
Yeah, they just said rebalance.
And let me tell you something, his health improved more in that short span of time where I decided to focus on myself because I had to, than the entire time of me obsessing over all of the stuff that I was trying to do to help him. And when I balanced me and I pulled back all of the protocols and all of the stuff I was doing, I was living every second of my day, trying to find this answer for him. And I pulled back. And as soon as I went and started focusing, Jennifer, you got to take care of you, he improved.
Yep.
He improved.
So I'm going to tell you what they're showing me for visuals as you're talking. They're showing not you, but the energy of that exuding from you of kind of that obsession, right? Which is reasonable, having going through that energy of that obsession. They're showing kind of like a smothering blanket of like, okay, they just said he couldn't come into his own. Does that make sense? To like use they're trying to show the internal him, the energy of him, like, oh, I just heard it kind of ground to a halt in the sense of being able to take care of himself. Does that make sense? Like for him to lift off, because there was the energy coming of the what I'll call obsessive energy, for the lack of a better way of explaining it. And it's like covering up. Am I explaining this right? Because I'm trying to explain their picture, like covering up his ability to, like, they just said charge his own battery. Does that make sense?
He was choosing me to charge off of. Yes, absolutely.
And so learning to charge your own battery then was really important to his own healing, because then he's using his own healing energy, his innate self.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
There's still, he's 13 now, and then we're still working on that. But yes, I can see where that happened. And even pulling back, there was a comfort and an enmeshment from him too that didn't want me to. So it wasn't not necessarily that they know and they're like, no, mom, back up. No. They're doing it too, right? Because it feels good to be mom's energy, I think. So it's a balance you have to go through on that too. But it's amazing to realize how powerful you are in your most powerful state of being, and service to is doing yourself, really. I mean, and moms especially, we're terrible at that. We're going to slave until we fall apart. We pass out usually. Your true power lies in your own state of being and how that affects those around you, more so than really diving in. It's really, it has a profound
and see your example with a child who has autism is, and I don't want to say extreme, but it's a really good example of this, of what every mother's probably are doing, to some one degree or another, right? Oh my gosh, it's interesting. I just got the words parenting in the time of ascension. So it's like there's this whole journey of parenting in a new way is what they're talking. They always take me back to the way it used to be, like way back in they always give me kind of an Atlantean feel, when Atlantis was more utopia in that.
Yes.
I mean, it was, you could argue it was never perfect, but they keep bringing me back to we're not even close to the ways of how we used to, birthing children's one way. Very, very different. Parenting was very different. The relationships were very different in the sense of the relationship. It's so intriguing how they always bring that back to remind me how, they just said, this is interesting, how far away we are from the origin. And when they're talking about the origin, they're talking about the most energetically beneficial, to the growth of the own, or to the growth of the individual soul.
Yes. I feel like it's interesting you brought up Atlantis. It's Atlantean. You mean Atlantis, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is that what you're? Yeah. So are you seeing? It was very modern, like kind of modern. I'm getting like how much you know about Atlantis. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh, I'll tell you. Oh, I'd love to, but the only thing I know about Atlantis is the information I've received. I'm not
Okay.
kidding you, because I just don't go out and read stuff. I just get information, and then they tell me what it was like, and
No,
so.
I don't. I'm not necessarily reading a lot. I'm getting a lot of visuals, and I didn't
Oh,
realize what
me
it was.
too.
I was asking, and I said I'm getting a lot of Atlantis stuff right now.
Oh,
So
well, then
I'm
let's
getting
talk
a
about
lot
it.
of visuals on Atlantis. The
I'd love to
recent,
talk about it, because maybe we
I
can
think,
tie it. Maybe you can tie it to some of the things we're talking about here.
I think there's they can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe this is correct, that we are in a time period where the Atlantis energy is really at
Totally,
play now.
totally. In fact, they keep talking about uh,
Whew.
coming back to, like coming back to. Oh, the organic. Remember we talked about organic last time. Coming back to, and okay, so I'm going to go here real quick, and then we can. They're talking about coming back to that template that was actually used. They're talking about in Atlantis times, like a template of. They're kind of talking like near perfection in the sense of how you would go about the life journey.
Like almost, I was saying like balancing the even family dynamic, because I was watching, and I think I'm seeing this right, but it looks like even the children were not really treated like children. They were treated
No,
like small adults,
totally,
right?
totally.
In the sense of the respect level that they had, and their nurturing, their learning wasn't necessarily a higher. It was almost like you come in and you just go on the same path that the adults are on. You're just at your own level, right? It's
Yes.
not really like children and the adults you came in and you just kind of picked up into that same. And then I also got something when you were talking too. I got something about conception. Conception's
Totally,
different too.
totally. Yes.
So there wasn't like conception was more on a spiritual or intention. What's the word I'm looking for? A consciousness
Okay.
um,
And
level.
yes, yes. And they're very much, they've shown me this before, and I've never been able to really talk about it because I've not done a video on it, but very much, and they just said with intention behind it. It was very well planned, and it was very, okay, they just said orchestrated, but it wasn't like by, like you might think like a socialistic government or a communistic government saying you can have one child, not that kind of thing. No. It was a community. It was based off of, okay, so what I'm getting is it was based off the deep understanding of life in and of itself, because remember, they understood so much more than we did. They didn't have the veil, is what I'm getting, right? Well, to the degree we do. They were much more connected. They were connected also in many cases to the star beings were still showing up.
Yes.
But I'm getting this awareness of, okay, they just said like the life trajectory. So there was not this complete, they just said obscuring of purpose and why we were here. So what would happen is and we'll get back, sorry, I'm just going to blubber on for a minute.
No, do it. Yeah.
Okay. So what the trajectory you talked about with children coming in and taking that adult, that's exactly what I've been getting, is that it's like they came in, everybody understood the path to basically the human journey, but the soul journey was the key to it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so everybody would start on that trajectory. Learning was, and we can get into all the other parts of that, but the conception part was, okay, they just said well planned and well orchestrated. And I'm also getting that divine partnerships. They knew those. You didn't just, first of all, okay, I'm just going to keep going and then I'm going to be quiet. You didn't just, first of all, sleep around. Okay. I mean, it was not a thing at all, is what okay, you get that too. Okay.
Yes.
And then that you would connect with your divine partner because they were so much more conscious, right?
Yes.
And then that process would take place. And the families were a little different too. So, oh my God, we could keep going on and on. So go ahead with what you're connecting with conception. Maybe we stick on conception for a minute and then, because we could jump around a whole bunch of topics.
Now, I believe that like conception too, like even the biology and stuff was different. It was almost like the biology matched the consciousness. So, here there's a lot of just like it's every 28 days kind of thing. It's not really tied into much of consciousness or awareness or spirituality. It's just kind of a physical thing that happens, right?
Yes.
So,
well, and think about it now. Now we've got devices that if you don't want a period, you don't have to have a period. Okay.
Right.
I mean, like, it's not a thing.
Well, I don't think that's really even, honestly, I don't even think on a biological level, I don't even think that's super healthy for that to be occurring.
No.
So I think that a lot of times there was, I believe, and what I'm just kind of feeling through my senses that I remember, and I think this is this time period, is that there were several components that went into it, and it had to be a joint energetic from the partners.
Yes.
And then your body would prepare itself.
The body would naturally move in that direction. Yes, because everything was connected. And you'd find you'd have your divine partner because, okay, you just hit on something that just showed up. I'm going to go off on the divine partner part. Guess what? It's like a switch went on when your energy's connected. And guess what? Oh, this is going in a different direction. This is interesting. Yeah. It's like a switch would go on when you remember, it's all energetic, all vibrational, and you match, and then your bodily self, your reproductive self, they just said would align. Okay.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it
but
does.
It wouldn't align. It wouldn't align otherwise because it was all energetic. Wow.
Yes. I believe that is absolutely, that is what I remember, that I remember this being the way it is. I don't know if that was that time period, but I can remember, or I should say remember, I am aware of this being this way. And I know that that's true. So there wasn't any, there's not like really mistakes to be made there. It was almost it was so divine. It was like divinely guided, I guess you could say it.
That's exactly it. I'm so glad we're talking about this because I've gotten pieces of this information because they've always said to me, and we're saying the same thing. They've always said to me, reproduction was different, not at all like it is now, which is also goes to why we are overpopulated. Okay.
Yes.
Because we are not, this earth, and that goes into another conversation, was not meant to handle this many people. But the point is this is alignment, and they're very much talking about that it's always energetic. The cycle of the woman, they're talking about, oh God, they said it's like the stars. Okay, wait a minute. I got to go here because they're saying it had a lot to do with being with divine alignment, but it's talking about the stars and moon and the planets and the alignment in that with the divine connection of the partner that would then align with the reproductive process. Now, oh God, I have chills. Whoa. And then does that make sense? So it was all connected into the higher energies of the cosmos.
That's right. Yes. Oh my God, this is so right, because we kind of remember that, like we attribute things to the sun, but this is what I'm saying. We were so but we were so aware of our connection to everything that is. So even that cycle was related to the infinite cycle of the universe, or whatever you want to say, the cosmos, right?
It was all connected.
Yes. Oh my God. I remember this very well.
This is fascinating because you know what they're showing? It's like they're trying to use an example of like the stars and the moon and the cosmos. They keep saying cosmos because they're talking bigger than just what we see up here. But they're saying it was like a big clock, basically. I mean they're using this as a metaphor, but like a click, 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 everything would go into place, and then click, 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 all the pieces of the puzzle, kind of like, okay, now they're showing a Rubik's cube, like be in place. And then the physical self, and they would know they just said by the alignment of the stars.
All the stars aligned, right? It's so funny though, because you think about that, how we pick partners now, and how many people, look at the divorce rate, for instance. Okay, let's just take, and I'm in there too, so I'm not judging anybody. Yeah. So it is something that we align to partners based on senses that can later turn out to be, that's not what I thought it was, because we're aligning on face value a lot more than we are on intuition and energetic, right?
Totally. And vibration. Exactly.
So we're not really utilizing that same system. So a lot of times, people will end up think that they are with somebody. And I think, frankly, this is what I think is going on. I think our own energetic that is magnetizing or remembering or has the energy of our divine partners, a lot of times out of like almost a wish fulfillment, we project onto some of our other our partners here.
Oh yeah, I would completely agree with that.
We might not even know where that's coming from, but it might actually just be our being under veil, missing, because we feel like we're in separation from those partners of ours that are divine partners. And as we feel that they are part of us, we tend to project their energy onto maybe somebody else. So we kind of give them the attributes of what we're looking for, and we end up with them. And then later we find out, hey, they're not really acting the way that I thought they would, being this particular, not who I thought they were, right? Exactly. How many people say that they're not who I thought they were?
Right.
Okay.
Because alignment is because that, okay, so they're talking about the vast majority of people who meet, or this has been a pattern, who meet who they end up with, like your example you just said, it's based off of drama. It's the human ego. It's the drama. It's the extreme emotion. It's the physical. It's the looks. It's not energy, right? It's not. Yes. We've turned it into something completely different.
Yes.
And so yes. Oh, I just heard you misread. Basically misread.
Yes.
And oh God. Okay. So they're also saying that deep in the soul, there's a strong desire to connect with the divine plan, the divine partner. And it, to your point, is so strong, but it's okay. They then said it's filtering through the ego, which has since Atlantean days has taken over. Okay. Yeah. And so it has to filter through the ego and turns into something completely different, which turns into a completely different energy.
Yes. Agreed. And I think,
you know what? We're coming back into this is, and not that we want to go here with this, because obviously collectively we have a long ways to go, but I think a lot of people are going to start to resonate with this conversation in that they're starting to see how relationships, and we know this, forget romantic relationships in general are vibrational. And as we focus on centering ourselves and all the things they did in the Atlantean days, which we could talk about, but as we focus on that part, our energy body, and we create we reclaim our vibration, then we start aligning with those, not only just friends, but,
partners, lovers, whatever. Sure. I think it kind of even goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. How do we do that? How do we get ourselves into the position where we're not projecting maybe? And I was like, one of those same thing. It's like, know thyself, be the best you, right? Because I honestly feel like I have projected a feeling like an energy that I've had my whole life. Frankly, I know it so well, and I feel like it's a partner, but I kind of project it, or I might recognize a tone of it in somebody else, and I'm immediately attracted to them. But it's not necessarily because I'm attracted to them. It's because there's something that's running through me that is so that I love so much, that I noticed something in them that's similar to it, and it immediately made me attract to them, right? So it's almost like things here can be misread because the person that you're attracted to is kind of almost entering the shadow of the energetic of your partner, right?
Yes, or carries some of that, and you mistake it for the whole thing. Exactly.
Right. So I think that's a lot of what's going on. But I think that maybe the way to guide is to strengthen that within yourself and before you. I don't know. That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. Maybe
Oh yeah.
because it's already in us, right? I mean, like I said, I recognize it even when I'm young, not looking for relationships.
No.
Even very little, I've always felt that kind of. I can tell that there's this like beloved kind of energy that I runs through me all the time.
They're talking that it's innate. It's within us. It's within each of us, and it comes from those days. It comes. Well, it's the innate. It's that.
Right.
Okay, and they did say it's a divine system of this connection, the reproduction. It's a divine system that, and we won't go to the days when the Atlantis fell, but if we talk about how Atlantis was, very much I'm getting connected into a divine system of, I just heard, oh, that's interesting. Okay, did you say that? Okay, they just said birth, rebirth, and in quotes, death. So they're saying divine system of birth, rebirth. Okay, here's what they're saying. Birth, like we know it, right? But that system, it was a divine system. But so the soul gets birthed into a human, and then you rebirth from the human, right? To understand who you are. So the children were taught who they were or who they are. That's the rebirth. I'm showing this, okay? The rebirth of, you're teaching them a way of understanding that they are a soul within a human body, and I'm very much summarizing this, a divine being, the essence of who they are. So that's the rebirth into the fullness of who they really are. And then there's the moving on into the next journey, which we consider death. But there's something different here about the birth, rebirth part is really fascinating how they're showing this. I wonder if we could unpack more of that.
Is it rebirth? Are they talking about like rebirth is the manifestation of a child?
No, they're talking about the birth of a child as an example, and then the human that's born, the child, or it is then goes through the rebirth process in the human form. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Through their human journey, they're going through rebirth. So it's because what they're showing, oh God, okay, this is going to get trippy. They're talking about the birth canal is actually the life journey. Okay, in the metaphor they're using here. So the birth canal is the life journey and the rebirthing and understanding who are ours. Oh, it's the reaching of the enlightenment in the human form. So then, oh God, I have chills. That's the rebirth through the canal. They're using that as a metaphor. Okay, so they're born. They go through the rebirth process, which is going through the journey to their enlightened self. Okay, and then there's the death phase as such, and again, you could just say reincarnation phase or whatever, but they're focused mainly on this is the process. Okay, they're talking about the divine system included in the part of this goal was to then be able to take that journey and rebirth yourself into an enlightenment state.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know. I mean, you tell me. Because this is what I'm getting. That's
interesting.
So, because here's the thing. So a soul comes into a human body and it's like, what's this? Nowadays we don't think about it. We just go through our lives but there was a process to take that child and then to mentor and assist them along in living a divine life and understanding who they truly were, get all their gifts, all the magic, all of this is what I'm getting. Okay. That's the rebirth. Okay. Because you're taking the soul in the human body, which is a really unique thing, is they've told me this for ages that, that is unique.
Yeah, it is.
The human body. And then turning it. Okay. So they're talking about the light body, the ascension, all of that whole idea of enlightenment and being able to, kind of like we've talked about, live in the ascend in the human body, and you're living it in the higher dimension, but it was a process of getting to that point.
Wow.
Okay, I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that, or to say, no, that doesn't make sense? Or
No, I'm watching because I'm kind of getting visuals while you're talking, and I was thinking I wonder, I kind of got a little of I don't know if that's me picking up on it or not, but I felt like part of the rebirth is the rebirthing is almost the rebirthing of you as your being and what you've learned so far is almost like rebirthing is coming through your child. Like the birth, you're the birth, your child is the rebirth of you.
Are you talking back then or now?
Back then.
Okay, so go ahead.
And then the death is yours. So you've basically passed forward into your child, right? So it's like birth and then rebirth is your child. You're passing forward as you mentor your child forward. You're passing what you know into them for them to like take the baton and move forward with.
Yes. I don't know. Okay. So now they're touching.
You understand what I'm saying? Is that right?
Because it's the same thing. I was looking at it from what they were giving me is the individual soul journey, right? And being mentioned into that. What you're talking about is they're saying that's the lineage connection. Okay?
Yes.
That's the, okay, wait. Okay, there's something here. They're talking about because you know how we talk about our ancestors and ancestral and lineage and all the trauma and all that. That had a lot to do with not passing down, or they didn't really think of it like that, passing all the goodness of the journey in. So how do I want to say this? Do you know what I'm talking about? So you're not having all this ancestral crud you're having to deal with, which we're dealing with now because of all the
I feel like it was like an ushering in, and they probably did not have things like the veil or forgetting or having to start over, or you know, we call it the Akash, but it's all the stuff that you've learned. So I'm thinking, you know, we pass things down to our children.
Yes.
In this state, we're just kind of learning that even happens. We really don't even know how it works. We just know, oh my God, this is showing up in their genes. But I think what's really going on is you pass everything forward. Yep. So when the way that they've mentored their children and raised their children, it was like, I'm giving you everything that I have, that I've learned, and I'm passing it to you, and then I'm going to mentor you forward. Yep. And that is going to carry without interruption or distortion like we have now. So we are basically nurturing our bloodline forward. We're nurturing our bloodline. We're nurturing our soul. It's not separate. Like their soul is not necessarily a totally separate soul. It's building on what I'm giving you. And then you're here now and I'm going to mentor you. Yes. Right? Does that make sense?
Oh, completely. Because it adds that other layer to what I was talking about with the individual journey. And then we're talking ancestral and lineage. Yeah. Because here's what they're saying to me is, they're talking about after the fall. And I'm going to tell you, it was a further time back than we know. Okay. It wasn't like, it wasn't just a few thousand years ago. But anyway, after the fall, what they're talking about is that's when everything stepped in that changed the way that's when we got the really heavy veil. We dropped in dimensional status too. We've been crawling our way out of that, but we got covered up first with all of it. So what's happening, the reason now that we have all this lineage work that we do with people, that we have ancestral stuff that comes in and they're having to deal with, and some people are clearing for the ancestral lineage and all our past life stuff. Guess what? That's because of and this may seem obvious, but that's all the stuff that we didn't deal with like we would have. Well, probably would not even happen in the Atlantean days. We deal with all of it then, and we ensure it doesn't occur. They didn't really know it would occur, right? But it's occurred now in this human journey over the eons of the patriarchy and all of that nasty stuff that we've created, and the trauma and the wars, and it just goes on and on and on, right? And well, guess what? We're having to back that out now and unravel that through past life clearing, through the traumas we're experiencing that we don't even understand, through ancestral lineage, the child. It goes on and on and on and on.
There's genetic purification that's going on too. Actually, there's some genetic stuff that went down in that whole situation that wasn't cool. And I think that what we were talking about in the beginning, where there was an alignment, where there really wasn't a question like, that's your partner, that's your partner. It was a energetic alignment. There was no real, but something happened. And even I feel like something happened that crossed that violated like the encodement of that reproductive, and it violated some of the genetic. That was part of. It was like one line trying to leapfrog themselves into another line that they knew was higher.
Can I stop you there? Can I stop you? Because here's what I'm thinking. If this turns into a video, I feel like we should address more the utopia part first, like what it
Sure,
was like,
sure.
and then what we could do is another video on what the hell happened. Does that make
Yes,
sense? Rather than do a
yes,
crossover, because I don't want to lose
yes.
what you just said. I think it's important to then talk about that, but I think we will get enmeshed in the back and forth because
Yeah,
we always talk, it's very often we focus on, not you and me, but in general, how Atlantis fell. Well, we
yes,
don't talk about what it was like. And I've been getting information on this, but I've never talked about it, right?
yeah,
So maybe we
yes.
could stick to what it was
Yeah,
like.
the utopia, it's kind of tied together, but we don't have to go there, but it's kind of like there was a like almost like an ethical or a social boundary that was crossed
Yes.
because they're utopian. It was very I think it was very is beautiful. There was a it wasn't necessarily like relationships between men and women, for instance. It was so based on integrity,
Yep.
respect for
Alignment.
each other.
All alignment. Like if
Yes.
you were out of alignment. Okay. So what they're showing is that's exactly right. Respect. They're showing if you were somehow a little bit out of alignment because of who you were around, everybody was focused on the same kind of like energetics. You would immediately know you were out of alignment. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And
yes.
you would work to come back. Okay, can I just I'm gonna take you here on this? This is a little weird.
Sure.
It showed if you were out of alignment, you would know it vibrationally because they were so connected to their energy bodies that there were ways, they're kind of showing like, and they're kind of laughing at me with this, but like there were facilities, I'm putting that in quotes, so there were places to be able to go to help yourself get back into alignment. So does that make sense? So there were ways or methods, that's what they're saying. There were methods to help you to, because you could still do this kind of thing is what I'm getting, but because of who you were around, you would not vary that much. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Yes.
Because remember how we've talked about this ascension journey is big thing with the first waivers or just ascension in general is we're creating light that then brings the rest along.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yes.
the same thing. And then you hold that vibration. That's why they always tell us in the darkest of times, which we've had enough of those lately, right? I mean, but in the darkest of times, we can't step into the muck. We have to hold I have chills. We have to hold our light because what they're talking about is back then is if somebody started to move out of alignment, and again, it was compared to today, not even comparable, they would know. And that then they would be able to shift back into alignment because of the collective they were around. Does that resonate at all?
Yes, it does. Actually, and it does play a lot into family too. It's interesting how some cultures, even now, the family, they're very tight knit, right? And you don't find them living separately. In fact, you find multiple generations living even in the same house or at least on the same property in different homes. They still stay very, very close. There's 3 generations, sometimes 4, that are all right there. Your aunt's like, your aunt and your grandmother look after you just like your mom does, right?
Right.
It's that kind of, I think that is very much a echo forward or
Yes,
echo into this as to what
I just got that
happening there. Yes.
Yep.
It's not like theirs and yours. It's like it takes a village. It's the whole family. Kids didn't come in. It's like, that's your kid, go handle him. When a child came into the family, it was like our lineage this is our future. Everybody loved and supported and nurtured everybody's children the same as if they were their own, right?
And it's interesting when you're talking, and every time they show me the Atlanteans, they're very light body, like very light, like they're a body, but they're a very, I guess I'll just say, I don't know how to they feel very ethereal. So that what you're talking about there is, and that's so cool, the echo of that. But what it was based on was, again, I keep going back to the vibration and the energetics of that family, right? Whereas now it's based on kind of controlling, mothers or, how that goes, right? Like, so but the same idea. It is taken from that. Yep.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because like the bloodlines, because you know, as you do this, when you think about your bloodline, you usually introduce something that would be maybe beneficial to both bloodlines when you come into union with somebody, right? So that kind of stuff is very, very serious. And I've noticed that in just my interactions with different eras, different time periods, even like different like cosmic, it doesn't necessarily have to be an earth so much on an earth plane. It could be other planets, you know, other civilizations. That's not a joke. That's very, very serious. Your partnership and your energetic coming together, produce or create anything, not just a child, but anything.
Oh, that's a really good point.
It's very, oh God, what's the word? It's very sacred, right? It's not and right. You know, I've even seen the interruption of that, or the disturbance of that, and how you think most of the time these people are very, you know, most of these civilizations, they're very calm, zen, they're higher level. That gets violated, they could become very angry. I think that might actually be the root of many of the wars that went down in the, you know what I mean, is when that was violated in some way.
All right, there's your video for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Remember, purplerainhealing.com, where you can see all of my services, where I work with you individually, one-on-one, in channeling information for your spiritual and life journey. I have all kinds of channeling that I do, and I also offer distance energy healing. So check out those services. We work together one-on-one, where I assist you forward in your awakening journey, your life journey, for information coming through me for your spirit team. I actually act as a facilitator for you in the information that comes forward. So it's very much like a conversation, three-way conversation. I bring the information through, I provide it to you. You, on the other hand, engage in the conversation as well, which is really cool. And they're so robust. They're just fascinating. I also offer one-on-one mentoring, where you can work with me regularly and receive a 10% discount on all the sessions that you have with me, as long as you continue to work with me monthly. So check it out, purplerainhealing.com. I would love to work with you. The sessions are powerful and fascinating, and it's been such a joy getting to know so many of you. Well, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for joining me. I will see you in the next one.